65 years ago, on this very day, September 21st, the feast of St. Matthew, a young man walked into a church. He was supposed to go meet his friends, but he was called to something greater. He felt a desire to experience God's mercy in the sacrament of reconciliation. And so he went into the church, and during confession, he realized that God was calling him to be a priest. This wasn't me, I'm only 64. Years later, the man became, after being ordained a priest, was ordained a bishop. And for his episcopal motto, he chose the words, miserando atque eligendo. Some of you may know who I'm talking about now, because he is none other than Pope Francis. When he became bishop, Jorge, or George, chose this motto, and he kept it as he became supreme pastor, the pontiff, the Holy Father of the entire Catholic Church. Because that day obviously touched him so tremendously, that mercy became the center of his life and the center of the focus of his ministry. There are so many stories about him when he was bishop sending his priests out. And when they would come back, he would look at their feet and say, "Where's the mud?" Because obviously they had avoided going to where the poor people lived. And even before he told the church that he wanted his bishops and priests to smell like the sheep, that was his encouragement to his priests, that they should smell like the people. They should smell like the people that they serve. And if any of you have experience with some of the, we might call, or the world might call, less desirables, you know that it's not always comfortable to walk around with the smell of the sheep. If you've ever been near sheep, you know that it's not comfortable, especially after the rain. What a stench. But it's being with the people that we, all of us, can convey the mercy of God. Jesus calls Matthew, and it was the Venerable Bede from Ireland who, in a sermon for this day, wrote those words, miserando atque eligendo, which grammatically don't make sense because they're two gerunds, but it's by mercy he chooses. By mercy he's choosing. It's through the eyes of mercy that Jesus saw Matthew. He was a customs agent, as we hear here, and if you've ever traveled and returning to this country or going into your own country, sometimes customs agents are the nicest people. But in those days, they would also levy taxes on what you were bringing in. And so, as it happens, Matthew is the patron saint of accountants and customs agents. And even in our days today, no one likes a tax collector. Certainly no one likes paying their taxes, and we all kind of tremble if we don't have our taxes by the beginning of April because they're due in a few days. And so Matthew wasn't very well looked upon. As a matter of fact, he was frowned upon, and he was considered a sinner because he was complicit with the Roman Empire, the Roman government. And so they didn't like him. But Jesus saw something in Matthew, and he said, "Follow me." We heard Jesus, with all of the apostles, saying, "Follow me. Get behind me. Follow me and do what I do." And it says Moses got up and followed him. Matthew got up and followed him. And the act of getting up was shown as a sign of conversion. He was changing his life. He left behind the life that he had known. And he invited Jesus to come to his home where there were other sinners and other tax collectors and other accountants and customs agents. And he was criticized for being with the poor, for being with the undesirables. And yet that is what we're called to do. We're not called to go out and share our lives with those who already know the Lord, who already know the wealth and the richness, but to those who do not yet know or have forgotten who Jesus is, who God is in their lives. And yes, all of us are called to be agents of God's mercy, to show that touch, the loving touch of Jesus Christ, the loving call of Jesus. Come to church, come with me, come to Mass. Experience the Eucharist. Sure, the priest is boring half the time. Hopefully, only half. But you're not there for the priest. You're not there for anyone other than God and yourself, and the relationship that you have with the Lord. And so allow your hearts to be moved. Jesus says, come follow me. Get up from your sin, from your past. Experience the mercy of Jesus Christ and go forth. In that way we proclaim Jesus, by our lives, by our actions, by smelling like one another, by bearing the burdens of our brothers and sisters. That is how we live, and that is how we will enter eternal life, through the mercy and the love of a God who calls us ever to share that love.